Good morning, second hour. Today I'm excited because I get to tell you about a person who I think is just admirable. So, Zora Neale Hurston, let's see if I can say her name. Zora Neale Hurston is who we'll be discussing today. She is your second Harlem Renaissance author. So, I'll be telling you today about her life and writing, as well as clarifying some of her word usage. I'm going to get you started on reading and analyzing her piece that you'll read today, How It Feels to Be Colored Me. Then you'll have time to finish all the tasks for the week, double check you got those done on your handout, and hand that in. As you know, your handout for week 2 is due tonight at 11:59 p.m. All right, so let's start with showing you where you're going to put this on your handout. So if you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and open up this handout on Schoology, week 2. And we're on task 3 today. Notice I'm scrolling past some answers for our poetry analysis. As I've said, these are available to you. This handout with examples is already posted in the resources examples folder for you. That's green and it's on the top of your Schoology page. All right, so today we'll start here. Task 3, Hurston's life, writing, and analysis. So let's preview what questions you're going to have to answer. Always a good idea if you have questions on something you're going to read in an English class, read the questions before you read it, because that way your brain starts looking for the answers, whether you're conscious of it or not. So first, you're going to write what you found most interesting or significant about Hurston's life or writing. You'll write your answer there. And the following questions are for reading How It Feels to Be Colored Me. So the first question on that will be, what was the big change Hurston experienced at age 13? What is Hurston's view on slavery? Now, you're not required to have a text citation this week, but I included one to show you how to do it. I want to keep modeling that for you. One of the things we'll talk about today is Hurston's views on slavery and racial inequality did mean she had a falling out with the Harlem Renaissance authors, but we'll talk about that. All right. Your next question on what you'll read today is, judging from the anecdotes, true little stories, Hurston includes in her essay, what experiences and traits does she consider distinctly African American? Now, I told you we were going to clarify a word. She uses the word Negro throughout her piece. And the reason why is she was writing in the 20s. And at that time, Negro was the appropriate or polite, politically correct, if you will, term for an African American. They didn't have that term yet. The other N word, which you will not see in today's essay, was considered the rude term. So she's trying to use the correct term for her time, in other words. All right, question 5. Based on what Hurston has written in this text, what are the goals of Black writers? So according to her, what are the goals of a Black writer? So you can decide if you want to use a text citation for this or if you just want to summarize what you read. Either way works. So let's get you started on the actual story itself. So this is right in your Schoology, and notice they give you background as per usual. And they also give you her autobiography. And I should back up and tell you about her before we read her. Silly Copeland. So let's tell you a little bit about this lady before we read her words. So here's a quote I found from her that I think is a really good one. If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. And I got this information from her official website that her family has put up. So she lived from 1902 to 1967. She was writing at the same time as Langston Hughes. They were colleagues, in fact. But first, before she got to the Harlem Renaissance, we got to talk a little bit about her background, which you're going to be reading about in today's piece. So she grew up in Eatonville, Florida. This town is significant because it was the first incorporated Black township in the United States. And because it was the first one, This is going to sound weird, but it became a bit of a tourist attraction. Like people from all colors from across the US would go and visit this place because they wanted to see, well, what's this like? What's this town like? How are they running things? So it was a popular place. She liked living there. But when she was 13, her life changed. And Zora was a fighter all her life. She was the kind of person who would say what she thought and stuck by it. Her father remarried. Her mother died when she was 13, and her father remarried pretty quick to a younger gal. Zora did not get along with her new stepmother at all. In fact, they got into a fight that was so physical that the stepmother almost died. Like Zora almost handed it to her. She caught that smoke, if you will. After that, Zora left home, understandably, and she traveled and worked for a number of years. So she dropped out of high school and then traveled and worked. But after a couple of years of this, she realized I need my diploma so I can have more opportunities. I need this learning. So one thing that's unique about Zora Neale Hurston is she went back and finished high school at the age of 26. Can you imagine? That's like 21 Jump Street. So, and how did she get away with it? You might be wondering. She lied about her age, and she had such a good face. You know, she had those cheekbones that she got away with it. She kept her age 10 years younger than her actual age throughout the rest of her life, by the way. She was famous in the Harlem Renaissance for not only her writing of books, she wrote everything: books, short stories, articles, essays, autobiography. I think she even attempted a screenplay at one point. But what people remembered about her is that she, like I said, was a fighter and she would stick to her guns. One of the problems with that is one of her opinions was that slavery is the price for getting to America. Many of the other people in the community, in the Harlem Renaissance community, Langston Hughes, for instance, strongly disagreed with her. Because she wouldn't back down on this stand, she wouldn't compromise or consider other views. They basically started to isolate her, and her writing became less popular. So she had a peak for a while there where she was making good money on writing and doing lectures and speaking with people. And then, because of her opinions on racial equality, she didn't have that anymore. So cancel culture happened even back then. We just didn't have social media to do it. Toward the end of her life, she was quite poor and no one had remembered her work, her writing. The reason why we know about it is because a writer in the 70s, Alice Walker, um, started basically a revival on Hurston. She told people what an influential writer she was and got her in the public eye again. Of course, she had already passed, but we now have her works to read. So why is she significant? She's one of the most important women writers in the US because she wrote so much and was so opinionated. She didn't try to sugarcoat what she thought at all. She also was really funny, I should add. A lot of her writing is humorous. And the other reason why she's significant, one of the first recognized, celebrated Black women writers. She was one of the first ones celebrated as you are significant. So that's why we read her. All right, so at this point, I think we can read the piece, How It Feels to Be Colored Meat. Now, this is nonfiction. This is part of her autobiography. So this is how she truly feels. There's no character here. So I'm going to get you started on reading this, and then you will finish it and answer those questions on your handout and see what you think of Zora Neale Hurston. I am colored, but I offer nothing in the way of extenuating circumstances, except the fact that I'm the only Negro in the United States whose grandfather on the mother's side was not an Indian chief. So right from the start, she's kind of poking fun at some of her community. She starts off that way. I remember the very day that I became colored. Up to my 13th year, I lived in the little Negro town of Eatonville, Florida. It is exclusively a colored town. The only white people I knew passed through the town going to or coming from Orlando. The native whites rode dusty horses. The northern tourists chugged down the sandy village road in automobiles. But the northerners were something else again. Oh, pardon me, I missed a line. The town knew the southerners and never stopped cane chewing when they passed. But the Northerners were something else again. They were peered at cautiously from behind curtains by the timid. The more venturesome would come out on the porch to watch them go past and got just as much pleasure out of the tourists as the tourists got out of the village. The front porch might seem a daring place for the rest of the town, but it was a gallery seat for me. My favorite place was atop the gatepost. Proscenium box for a born first nighter. In other words, she was like a little actor on opening night. Not only did I enjoy the show, but I didn't mind the actors knowing that I liked it. I actually spoke to them in passing. I'd wave at them, and when they returned my salute, I would say something like this: "Howdy do, well, I thank you, where are you going?" Usually automobile or the horse paused at this, and after a queer exchange of compliments, queer at that time meaning weird, I would probably go a piece of the way with them, as we say in farthest Florida. If one of my family happened to come to the front in time to see me, of course negotiations would be rudely broken off. But even so, it is clear that I was the first "Welcome to our state" Floridian, and I hope the Miami Chamber of Commerce will please take notice. During this period, white people differed from colored to me only in that they rode through town and never lived there. They liked to hear me speak pieces and sing and wanted to see me dance the Pars Mila and gave me generously of their small silver for doing these things, which seemed strange to me, for I wanted to do them so much that I needed bribing to stop. Only they didn't know it. The colored people gave no dimes. They deplored any joyful tendencies in me, but I was their Zora nevertheless. I belonged to them, to the nearby hotels, to the county, everybody's Zora. But changes came in the family when I was 13, and I was sent to school in Jacksonville. I left Eatonville, the town of the Oleanders, as Zora. When I disembarked from the riverboat at Jacksonville, she was no more. It seemed that I had suffered a sea change. I was not Zora of Orange County anymore. I was now a little colored girl. I found it out in certain ways. In my heart, as well as in the mirror, I became a fast brown, warranted not to rub nor run. So she's going to continue explaining what it was like suddenly experiencing differences in race for the first time after 13 years of not. And she's going to continue to tell you her opinions on slavery and racial equality. You folks have the rest of the time to finish this and finish your handout for the day. As always, message me if you need anything, and I will see you next Monday.